Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to episode 15 of In the Red Corner. I'm joined tonight, as always, by Mr. Grant Winstanley, fresh off his first day back in the big smoke. How is the Docklands, mate?
Not bad, mate. It was the weather wasn't great today, was it? But yeah, back in the big smoke, hustling, bustling, changing people's lives one CV at a time, mate. That's what I do.
Just put that on your business card. Amazing.
That's it.
So I think the biggest news this week, following on from last week's podcast, is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has indeed outlasted Donald Trump, which is interesting for you, I suppose. He's not had it easy though. I think he still wakes up every morning with that impending peril of losing his job. At the end of the game last week, he did have a bit. Well, we won't call it a cry, but he had a bit of a rant, I suppose, on the pitch side about the sheer weight of games that they're having to play at the minute and the effect that's having on squads. So I think for my opening question this week, what I wanted from you was the 5 sub rule, yay or nay?
I'm a nay. I'm a nay for the 5 subs. Yeah, I'm a football purist, and I do like the 3 subs. I think it's I like the tactical element to the game with 3 subs. I mean, and when I say purist, I know back in, people say, well, back in my day, there was no substitutions and all that, but I wasn't around in that era. I was around in the 3 sub era. So I want to keep it the 3 sub era. So yeah, for me, I don't like the fact that, I think it alleviates and the advantages to those big clubs as well. I feel as though it's only the big clubs that are talking about it. I've not heard Burnley talk about it, or Brighton, or the fact that you can change half of your team in a game just doesn't. Then why pick a team? Why pick a first team at all? So no, I'm not a fan, to be honest. I think it's kind of, again, the gap between the smaller clubs and the bigger clubs. I don't like it, to be honest. And I know Klopp and Pep had a cry this week, and they were saying about the 5 subs when one used 1 sub and one used 2 subs in the game, which has been the criticism. But yeah, I don't know. For me, no, I don't want to see it. I know you've got it in the Champions League and the European competitions. That's great. Use the 5 subs there. Do your rotation in those games if need be. In like the games where if you're already qualified, do your 5 sub rotation like every other league in the world. But for me, nah, keep it as it is in the Premier League. What about yourself, mate? Are you a yay or a nay?
Oh God, it's a tough one. I feel like I'm still sitting on the fence with it, but yeah, you got to pick a yay or a nay, haven't you?
Yeah.
I think I'm erring towards the 5 subs, probably only for this season though. I think I don't think it's something I want to keep in. I'm similar to you, a bit more of a purist, and I think it's just it's a staple of the game, the 3 substitutions rule. But having said that, I'm mainly looking at it from a Liverpool perspective, from a top club who's going to want to compete in the Premier League and in Europe. I do worry that towards the end of this season now, having no one in the Premier League really has had a proper pre-season, we're already seeing the effects of the fatigue on the players. And over the next kind of month or two, it's only going to get worse. I think after this international break now, there's not really another break in the Premier League fixtures until the end of March. Right. It's just going to be game twice a week, Europe, Premier League, over Christmas. You've got 3 games a week there.
Yeah.
And I just think already starting to see that fatigue set in. The problem we're going to get, I think, is the back half of the season when potentially the squads are just depleted. They're injured. They're not able to play and perform at the same level. The entertainment factor might well go down as well. I think they just might not be able to play with the same kind of vigor. And then I guess for teams like Liverpool United, who are trying to compete in Europe, who do have the 5 substitution rule, even in Spain, Italy, they're all playing with that rule. So they're able to probably further rest and rotate, not just in the European competitions, but in the league competitions as well. So when it comes push to shove, I think towards the end of the season, you get to the pointy end of the Champions League, we might not be able to compete. I just think we might be a bit goose. So there's an argument for it there, but it isn't something I would want to keep around. I think it's just this season where everything's just a bit mad. There might be there's probably an argument for it, I would say.
Yeah. And the players will never admit this, but don't forget at the end of the season you've got the Euros as well. and how many players, who's going to make it to that tournament? Because I bet half the players will say, I know it's my country and it's a big competition, but I can't be asked. I want to go on holiday. Like, they'll never say it, but you know that a lot of them would go, oh, I've not been picked, have I not? Get in. Do you know what I mean?
It's true. They'll all have been played absolutely into the ground. The other, I mean, and the flip side of that is anyone who does want to, play in that European competition, but can feel the legs going come April. They might just be a bit, not really putting in a shift for that last kind of month of the season. They're nothing to play for. They might just be kind of coasting, might they? You can see examples of, I don't know, when we get to maybe Villa, maybe Jack Grealish, once he gets to the pointy end of the season, they're kind of mid-table-ish maybe. Is Grealish going to switch off and have a bit of a rest to allow himself to be able to play that tournament?
Yeah.
It could go either way, couldn't it?
Yeah.
But I just think either way, I just think this fatigue is just going to be a real problem as the season goes on. And I think, we're already seeing it and it's going to get worse as well.
Yeah.
I think, it's highlighted this week mainly through United as well. They're the ones who've had the rough schedule. You're obviously away in Turkey on, was it Wednesday night?
Yeah, Wednesday night.
And then backed it up again Saturday in the Premier League. I guess take me through your week. How did everything pan out for United?
Well, if you remember last week, I was saying that every game for the foreseeable is a must win. And the one that I didn't expect us to lose was obviously away in Turkey, because we've been away on the road and this lot of not that good. And it was a very, probably one of the worst, probably worst of the season. And it was a disgraceful performance, really. It was just, couldn't get anything going. It was slow. It was, 2, 3, 4 touches on the ball. There's no quick passing. And to be honest, I think we was more competitive in the 6-1 drubbing against Spurs, to be honest, than this game on midweek.
Says a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And the first goal, I don't know if you've saw it, but it can only be described as a goal that I've not seen since maybe under-8s football, where there was not one single Man United player in their own half. It was a counter. It was a ball over the top. Demba Ba just runs from the halfway line with the ball and slots it home after 12 minutes. I don't know why there's no defenders in 12 minutes of a game at 0-0. It's not as if it's like, last minute and we're chasing something.
Interesting.
So that was very strange. So that didn't set up the game well at all, really. Got back into the game with a header, but again, an easy ball through. 2-1 and not a good game at all. And I feared for the worst. I thought, well, I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to see the weekend. There was a bad feeling around the club. Yeah. Everton game looming, and as always in his reign, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer pulls it out. He's a magician. He pulls it out. He pulls the rabbit out the hat every time he's needed to. And I don't know whether it was I think it was a mixture of a good Man United and a poor Everton. I think they weren't that good. We weathered an early storm. Everton got a goal kind of in the first 15, 20 minutes. So he was kind of riding that early storm, a couple of good tough tackles coming in. And then Bruno Fernandes shown his class, killed the game off right at the end with Cavani. But the second half was comfortable, to be honest. I can't remember De Gea making a save in the whole of the game. There was something not clicking with Everton. I know the kind of front three has been, changing a little bit, but DCL wasn't in the game. James wasn't in the game. They just really struggled to kind of connect that forward movement. So we killed them off. So it was a vital win for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We look forward to 2 weeks' time now against West Brom at home, which they're probably the ideal team to play. The fact that we need a home result, but West Brom shown against Spurs midweek that they can dig in, they can fight, and I don't think it's going to be as easy as what we say, which Solskjaer won't want to hear that. So
is Ole still in the same position dthespight that win? Is he still almost a game away from his job? Do you think?
Yeah, and certainly if it's certainly if there's another big drubbing. If there's a 6-1 or a scoreline where we get battered, I think he's done. So I think every game, and I'm not an Ole outer. I want Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to win every game forever. because I'm happy. So it's down to him to win the games. So, it's just one of those. Every game, he's going to be under the spotlight. He's going to be under the pressure. He's kind of shown a couple of bits of pressure with that interview that you spoke about earlier of pressure getting to him a little bit. So just my advice to him is, mate, keep picking up the points. Keep putting Pogba on the bench. Start Donny van der Beek. Do what you can. I want to see a bit of Tellez action now. Now that Shaw's injured. So, mate, just keep picking a team to win games. And Fred, I mention Fred, very underrated every game he's played this season. Fred has been our unsung hero. I like him and McTominay in the middle of the park. Tenacity, intensity. I like what them two are about. So I can't see Pogba fitting in to any of a winning side for us. So like I've been saying every week, time to cash in. So talk me through, I know we spoke obviously Champions League with yourself last week, but talk me through the weekend, mate. How was the noisy neighbours of Manchester City?
It was good on the whole. I think obviously the 1-1, I think both teams and me certainly, I would have taken that going into the game. I think a 1-1 draw away at City is always a good result. Historically we've not had the best of times going away to the Etihad. I would definitely have taken that. I think I was surprised when I saw the lineup. Obviously we spoke heaps last week, and when we caught up before the game, we were talking. I mean, everyone was talking Jota or Bobby Firmino. Where do you go? Do you drop Firmino? Do you bring in Jota? Is Jota better coming off the bench? Klopp, as he's want to do, he just shocked everyone and played them both.
It's like a poker player, isn't it? When he's like a poker player, and they call him, they're about to show the cards, and they go, "You've got 2 aces, haven't you?" And he goes, "No, I've actually got 3 aces." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I didn't see that coming, and to be honest with you, we started really well. We started fast. We put them under a lot of pressure. That first 30 minutes, I was really impressed with us. But it definitely petered out as the game went on. But I do think that the way that we played that, the 4-3-2-1, how do we play? 4-2-3-1, sorry. The formation we played, it didn't do any favors for that front three, for the attacking three. Adding Jota in there with the regular front three, it didn't seem to click, and I think it really blunted Jota as well. He wasn't able to get into the game. I'm not sure why he played that formation. Maybe he just wanted to get his best lads on the pitch, his best attacking players on the pitch. And, it could have worked out. I suppose it's a gamble you take with the pressure that we put on them. And coming off the Atalanta game as well, where we knew we can turn teams around. And he probably just wanted to try and do more of that. But I think in a world where Thiago's fit and in a world where Fabinho's fit, he doesn't have that choice to make because they both play. And you kind of revert back to that 4-3-3. The tried and tested one. To be honest with you, it's what I prefer. I think now he's got the question of does he have to bite the bullet and drop Firmino? I think is
for the balance. Yeah.
And I think I don't think it feels like a negative, and I think that Klopp is doing a good job of defending Firmino. He stood up for him in the press just to say he's always delivered for us, which he absolutely has. But I don't think there's any harm and there's no shame in giving him a few weeks off. He's not on his A game, and everyone can see that. And surely even Firmino knows it as well. I don't think there's any harm in letting him take a back seat for a couple of weeks, letting Jota play while he's in form, kick on from there, let Firmino come on off the bench, let him maybe play some of the European games, or we got the option to rotate there, but just get him out the side and give him a bit of a rest and give him something to kind of play for, I think.
Yeah, it's probably a fantastic time to do that now because Klopp has a fantastic excuse in travelling with Brazil.
Yeah.
He could probably look and say, he can say, oh, well, Firmino got back late. He's gone to Brazil. I'm thinking about his travel, when actual fact, he kind of wanted to drop him and give Jota a try out. So he's kind of protecting both sides. But just to go back to the City Liverpool game, I don't know what your thoughts were, but when I saw the Man City team, that looked like a side that was very scared against you, as opposed to what are Man City about? What are our attributes? There was no Mahrez. It was a very quite defensive. There was a lot of like defensively minded players. Did you think the same thing?
Yeah, it was a solid outfit they put out there. And, you know, when I did see the team on paper, it looks like a strong side though. And, you know, there's good players across that side, and you can see why they're there to compete. I think more than any, I mean, you can read a lot into it, but I think more than anything, it just shows a respect. I think that Pep has for Klopp and for this Liverpool side.
Yeah.
He knows you can't go there and play the way you'd like to play against other sides. You're not going to be able to roll them over. Even with, you know, the defensive frailties without Van Dijk, I think people are aware now that Matip and Gomez are more than capable of holding their own at the back there. Saying that, you know, I thought De Bruyne was really good, as always. Obviously, the penalty miss, but, you know, these things happen.
I've actually got a stat for you on that.
Don't hit me with one.
So, Kevin De Bruyne's missed penalty was the first penalty to miss the target in the Premier League since 2018.
Bloody hell, really?
And the last one that missed was a certain Riyad Mahrez penalty against Liverpool, which I believe is still in the earth. I don't think it's landed yet, I don't think. So what about that for a start? So both against Liverpool.
That is interesting. That is really interesting. It was, I think De Bruyne is secretly a red, isn't he? He wants a red.
Redder. You know what I mean? Redder.
I'm seeing him with a 6-year-old with his Liverpool kit on. He didn't score that pen against us.
Exactly. So,
but I mean, to sum up on the game, I'm pretty happy with that, with the result. I think, like we've spoken about, the fatigue definitely showing. You saw it, you know, in Kyle Walker as well. He was run ragged, I think, by Marnie in that first 30 minutes and really started to tire out to put his shift in. Trent went down again. He's another one who's been playing week in, week out, very little rotation, and then going away playing international games. It just it catches up with it in the end. On the other side, I was really impressed with that the midfield two that we've been left with there with Henderson and Wijnaldum. With the way that we played that formation, they were obviously the sitting two with basically the four in front of them. They were asked to cover a lot of ground, and both of them, you know, Henderson was still zipping around in the last 5 minutes. I was really impressed with how they were able how they performed, really. I thought they were incredible, and just to be able to, against Man City as well, to cover that amount of ground, to hold their own, and to compete, it was a good performance from them. So we go into the break pretty happy, I think.
Yeah, we spoke about it early on into the season, but how glad are you that Wijnaldum has stuck around? Has he been pretty important for you guys in this start of the season?
Very important, because, you know, we haven't. You thought Thiago was coming in as a replacement for Wijnaldum, and he was going to go the other way to Barca.
Yeah,
Thiago's hardly played, and Wijnaldum's been, you know, playing week in, week out. I think what he offers you is that it's a strong body in midfield. Someone who's reliable, he's durable, he's always going to put a shift in. He's able to hold the ball up. He's really tough to get the ball off, and you know, he's just going to pop those short passes off. He's not going to do what Henderson does, and, you know, and shift the play or switch the play 40 yards up the field. But he'll get things moving between coming out of defense into our forward line. He's going to be really hard to replace, you know. And luckily, we do have someone like Thiago there who will hopefully, you know, take up the mantle. When I'm assuming Wijnaldum leaves at the end of the season, we'll see, I suppose, how it plays out. But yeah, I'm super impressed with him as always. He's just Mr. Reliable, and I think Klopp knows that as well. And as part of the reason, I guess, he kept him around for a season like this, when you need a deep squad. You need people like Wijnaldum in your squad.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah, and made up his performance. And I think it also showed towards the end of the game, when, like you mentioned, there wasn't many substitutions, despite Klopp and Pep both kind of having something to say about it. Neither of them made the all three substitutions that they could have.
Yeah.
I think it was probably more of we're happy to hold what we've got here. We'll take 1-1. We don't want to make any rash change to try and change the game up, but it could be for the negative, you know.
Yeah.
You never know who you bring on if it makes a negative effect on the team, and then you end up losing it.
Yeah. There's no one. It tells me that there was no one on the bench that they thought they can change this game.
No,
I'm happy with the 11 that I've got at the moment. You know, there's no one that. So why?
Did you notice Foden got changed and then never came on? It was almost like Pep was a bit like, I don't want to risk him. I could do with bringing him on, but I don't know if what he's going to bring to this side. Basically, I think both sides were doing as they were told. You know, as they were doing as what the manager asked of them. And I think anyone, fresh legs coming on there, it might just not have worked well with the way that the game was going. And I think neither wanted to risk losing it. I think they were happy with what they were seeing. They took the 1-0.
Well, Chris Norval, if you're listening, the favourite of the RZ Fantasy Football League, actually had Phil Foden in his team this week, started him. Obviously, he was crying, saying, I don't want him to come on, because his first sub was Thomas Souček at West Ham, 4.5 million, 9 points. So, Chris, if you're listening, mate, you're the luckiest I know, mate. You're the luckiest I know, and we'll leave it there. So let's move swiftly on there.
Yeah, I think elsewhere in the Prem this weekend, I think the main talking point for me, and we're going to bang on about it again, and everyone's going to probably turn off when we start talking about this, but the Bamford offside, Jesus Christ, I hadn't seen it. I had a busy weekend. I hadn't seen it until I caught up with you, and when you showed me, I was just blown away by the. There's not many other words apart from incompetence of whoever it is who sat watching that VAR screen to give that offside is mad, absolutely mad. To have someone who's effectively pointing where he wants the ball, to think that gives him an advantage because his arms his arms the furthest thing forward past the defenders.
When he's third best to the ball, that we looked at
where his feet are.
Yeah.
And again, I know that. I mean, this one doesn't count, but I know that the VAR debate at the minute, it's probably a lot more to do with the rules of the game rather than VAR letting us down.
It's this T-shirt rule, isn't it, that they're saying with the arm and stuff, but it's like, come on. Surely it can be interpreted,
Anyone with an ounce of common sense knows there that he's got no advantage on the two defenders. He was a good probably, I don't know, a yard or two, maybe a yard behind two defenders, but his forearms ahead of them. And you give that as an offside. Yeah.
Well, they're relying on, telepathic communication that will have to come into the game. And obviously footballers with no arms, because I think that's the only solution, I think, at the moment. Because, I was baffled. I was baffled by that. I thought it was one of the worst decisions.
That might be the worst one I've seen. Yeah. And it's got nothing to do with Liverpool. And, it's me without any kind of bias towards it. It's just it's a mad decision. And what it's, again, the sad thing is what it's doing is it's stopping players and fans, from properly celebrating goals, because you're just waiting for it to be pulled back now.
Exactly.
It's a mad decision that you've got no control over.
Exactly.
So I don't want to bang on about it, but that was the other standout for me this weekend. Anything that jumped out to you?
Aston Villa's performance against Arsenal, surprising.
Yeah. Did you see that video of the link-up play between Grealish and Ross Barkley?
Yes.
Oh my God!
I know. Get him in it. Get him at the Euros.
Unreal. Grealish is some player. Hey, he is some player.
Yeah. He and you know what? That's probably the signing of the season. And when I mean signing, I mean Aston Villa re-signing Jack Grealish to a contract is probably the signing of the season. The way I see the way Villa have played now, instrumental to where they're playing. You can see why he was linked with United in summer. A lot of fans didn't want him, but you look at him now, and I bet a lot of fans are saying
this is pretty much any side in the Premier League. I think.
And could play wide, could play number 10. He's just a fantastic player.
Fantastic on the ball. And you're right where you're saying that, it's a fantastic signing almost just to keep hold of him. And I think what they've done is empowered him a little bit more and asked him to step up and be a leader. Because I think, at one time or other, he was a bit of a jack lad, wasn't he? Maybe not taking it too seriously, but I think he's now, whatever's happened, he's got his head on it. He knows that he's almost, he's Mr. Villa, isn't he? And he's got the fans. He's the leader of that team, and he's responsible for how it goes. And I think he knows that now, and I think he's taking it very seriously, and it's taken his game to a new level, which is fantastic. And
the interesting thing for me is they were talking last week. Arsenal beat Man United, and it's all Arteta. He's the one with the philosophy. All he's rubbish. He's the man. He knows the direction Arsenal are going in. Arsenal have lost 4 games now. So how good is he?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Arsenal it's a bit mad, isn't it? I was just wondering how everyone was so high on Aubameyang coming into the season,
In fantasy football,
Everyone had him in fantasy. I named my fantasy football team after him. Yeah. And I don't know what it is with whether it's Arteta, the relationship, or how he's being played or what, but seems completely blunted, doesn't he? He's just not lived up to any of the hype that we thought we were going to get out of him.
Well, I saw as well, Arsenal haven't scored a goal for 4 games from open play. So the last 4 games, they've struggled to score a single goal from open play. So what's going on there?
No, weird one. Who have they got next? You know, top of your head?
Nah, I'm not too sure.
So yeah, I know it's early to say the pressure's coming on there, but you know, he's got to be with the expectation. I think coming into the season was pretty strong for Arsenal. You know, and if Chelsea keep kicking on, Spurs kick on, it's easy. Oh, you can very quickly Arsenal being left behind, can't you?
Yeah,
it's got to watch that, I guess. All right, moving swiftly on. I think before we move on to the UFC, I wanted to just touch on a few of the AFL trades. We mentioned last week there's some the trade season was open. Only one for Saints this week that I know of. We've got McKernan in from Bombers. Your old first kick of the week. So you're gonna have to transfer that bet to me now. I'll have to.
Sean McKernan. It just means I'm making 2 bets every week. I'm betting a Saints player and I'm betting an Essendon player. Bravo.
Yeah, a solid sign. I spoke to Anthony about him this week as well, and just to see what he thought. Shout out to Anthony. And he thought he's gonna be a solid squad player. Might not start. He's not gonna be he's not gonna be a main man, but someone great to have in your squad, an experienced player.
I agree. I would have kept him around for. I would have kept him around for another year. It was similar to Mitch Brown. We had Mitch Brown the year before and let him go. And again, he's one of them. Certainly with the injuries Essendon had last year, and if it's anything like this year, those players like your McKernan, they're pretty vital to come into a side. Do it, they do a job. They're not a 9 out of 10 every week or an 8 out of 10, but they're a solid 6.5, 7. They put a decent shift in most weeks. So
it seems to be what Saints are doing a little bit. Is building the squad out a little bit. There's a bit more experience in depth there because it is quite a young squad. So I like what we're doing so far. Bit more movement for the Bombers. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, a few an in and an out. Shake it all about. Adam Sard is. It broke earlier today that it looks like Adam Sard is signing for Carlton. Right. Trying to force through a trade there, which I'm actually really sad about that. He's a top player. I would say he's probably one of, if not the best, probably he's up there easily top 3 Essendon players. He's a real good player. He's just unique in the way he plays. I don't think there's many players like him in the league in terms of the job he does. He never kicks the ball. It's that bounce and it's that run. So he's going to be a big loss for us. But I'm a cynic when it comes to if he was unsure and he didn't want to stick around, or if you don't want to play for the shirt, go whoever you are, because there's young kids that you can pick up. There's kids coming through that would die for the shirt. So if you're not committed, then and there's 1 or 2 others in the Essendon team that I'd happily see the back off through commitment. Fantasia's one. So it's I'm sad, but it is what it is.
For Matt Barry, I'm sure he's going to be on the blower.
Yeah, that's it.
Blues fan.
Yeah, that's it. But the positive news is we've picked up a signing. Looks like the replacement for Joe Danaher in our forward line. The big fella, Peter Wright. No, not the darts player Peter Wright with the weird haircut. It's the guy, 2 meter Peter. He comes in 203 centimeters, 6'7", big forward. And from what I'm hearing in the Bombers camp and fans is that he's a good get for what we got in regards to kind of trading picks and where we picked him up. So could be a new favourite on my hands next year. I could be screaming 2 meter Peter every week, which is good. But the interesting thing is Bombers are obviously wanting to change the culture a little bit. There's probably a few players on good money, a little bit uncommitted. Needs a bit of a shake up and a cultural change because we've stagnated for the last few years. Going into the draft, Essendon now have, in the top 10, they now have 3. So they have pick 6, pick 7, and pick 8 in the draft. So if we pick up some young talent, or, I'm excited to see what they do with those picks and see who we can get in, because that's great news in my opinion.
Yeah, very positive, very positive. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on these trades as they come in each week. As we get closer to the preseason kicking off again in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
Moving on, the UFC. We had a half decent card the weekend. Nothing spectacular. But I mean, there's a few kind of highlights from that one. We mentioned last week we had a close personal friend of the podcast, Anthony Burchak, was making it was a last minute replacement on the card. We had Adam on a couple of weeks ago. We spoke about him. He said he was been a standby for a couple of cards actually, and was waiting ready. And he got the call, stood up, and opened up the prelims. Didn't go his way, but I think credit goes to him for being ready and willing to step up and then take that fight against someone he knew as well. It's an old training partner, which in some ways makes it more difficult because they know you inside out. You're probably very much aware of his jiu-jitsu skills and what he was going to bring to that contest. So, how did you see that play out for him?
Yeah, it was sad, really. It was, like you say, maybe a bit of sharpness that was lacking from Burchak because he's not been training for fights. So I think Lopez was a lot sharper. Caught him with a couple of shots early on. I think Burchak went for like a knee that was kind of never really that close. Again, I'm putting it down to sharpness, not in terms of technique or anything like our ability. Then he kind of was, fell kind of face down, was covering up a little bit, and then sure enough, I thought Burchak would get the submission, but of course it was Lopez that did that. And it's sad really because he's kind of done UFC a favour. He stepped up on short notice, and I feel as though when that happens, I kind of feel as though UFC give him a bit of sympathy and actually then give him a full fight camp and say, come on, thanks for helping us out. Let's see you have one more chance and see if we can give you a few more fights in the UFC. But knowing the ruthlessness of the sport, knowing what the organisation is like and what Dana is like, he stepped up and they've said, you used to be in UFC, we'll give you a chance again. You're not up to the level, so that's probably his last chance, unfortunately. But I wish it was different. But am I far wrong there? Or
no, I agree. I think in an ideal world, I completely agree. It'd be nice if someone, if a fighter steps up on short notice, does the UFC a favor, saves a fight from falling off the card. You think they get a bit of leeway in terms of we'll give you another shot.
Yeah.
The downside is I don't think there was enough in his performance, to convince the UFC to do that.
Yeah. I agree.
It really depends what else is going on in that division, and if they need any, I almost think he'll be another last minute replacement.
Yeah.
Depends what contract he got and whether he did get a few fight deal, but I'm not hopeful on that for him. But I do.
Hopefully he does.
I hope he does. I hope we do see him again because I think it's only fair that he gets another shot with a full camp. Nobody who's going to step in against, and like you say, having that sharpness. But we'll keep our eyes open for him, I guess, and fingers crossed. Wishing him all the best. Hope he does. We do get to see him again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving up the card. I mean, have you ever nearly vomited watching the UFC?
I was close. I mean, Anderson Silva's leg break maybe was, but I mean, seeing a guy's ear nearly fall off. I mean,
it's not what you expect, is it?
It's just. I just couldn't believe it. I don't think the referee certainly the commentary team. I know you kind of watched that back, and it was Dominic Cruz and Anik was, they didn't know what to say really. They was kind of So for those that didn't see it, I think was it maybe the second round or third round. I'm not too sure, but fighter up against the cage, taking a couple of shots, and then. I don't know whether it was. I mean, I think you were saying that maybe it was a bit like a cauliflower ear burst, or
almost, like it didn't. It wasn't. His ear was like his lobe was still attached to his head, but it was fully hanging off.
Yeah, and then the ref kind of jumped in, and then suddenly the doctor came in, kind of stuck a like a bandage up to his head, and it was not good. I had to look away for that one, and I just didn't want to hear. I muted it. I didn't want to hear any noise. I didn't want to hear anybody replaying or talking about it. I think I just ran and made a brew. I think I was like, I got to get out of here. So I could feel some hot sweats coming because I don't like that stuff. But that was gruesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. One of the gorier injuries I've seen within the octagon. I think good news on the end of it, you know, he's come out and he's fine. I did have to laugh like when you were saying when the ref, you know, congratulates the winner in the end, and he's just holding his ear with his arm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did check, and he tweeted afterwards saying, you know, he's good, he's fine, he's ready to go. And I was a bit like, I'm not sure you're ready to go. You nearly fell off me. I think you need a bit of time for that.
I'll be wearing a Petr Cech skull cap, I think, for my next fight.
I don't think we'll see him for a little while. I think that's obviously going to take a little while for him to be able to start to grapple again, or just to have that contact again. He needs to heal properly. So
I won't want to grapple with him because I'll be looking at it.
The shame of that was what I hadn't realised about him. He'd actually just come back to the UFC, or maybe was it his debut? He basically, when he went for his UFC medical, they found like a tumour in his eye.
Yes.
He'd actually been out, not made his UFC debut for such a long time because
correct.
Got himself back, thankfully he recovered. And then his first fight in the UFC, and his ear falls off. Just the rotten bit of luck. I think people like that, he's obviously got that mental fortitude there to rebound from it. So I'm sure we'll see him again, which is pretty awesome. Anything else on the prelims that took your fancy?
There was a bit of Elkins action in there, wasn't there? That it's like a bad rash. He just doesn't go away, does he? He just not stop. He's just your worst nightmare. He's non-stop action, swarming you all the time. If he's not punching you, he's trying to kick you. He's trying to grapple you. He's trying to throw you to the floor. It was a very kind of experienced performance from Elkins, and I wasn't surprised. What did you make of the damage?
Similar to you, I think he's always going to be one of them competitors, isn't he? And you know what you're going to get when you get in the octagon with him. Very impressive performance. Again, I don't think he's knocking on the door of any top 10s or anything like that in that division, but I think he's one of those fighters that you'll always see on those prelim cards. And he'll string a few wins together. He'll hit his limit, and he might get outclassed a little bit, but he's always entertaining, which is something to be said for that, isn't it? So
absolutely. And interestingly, a guy who we spoke about a couple of times, I'm a big fan of his, Giga Chikadze. Seen him a few times, kind of, Fight Island, and fought a few times recently. Came into the UFC with a bit of a reputation, kind of from Europe and what he's all about. Good stand-up, and he was impressive once again. Really impressed me. I think Dana was impressed, and I think I remember saying to you that kind of after the fight, he was talking to Dana for a good few minutes, maybe asking, I want to do one more before the end of the year. And then in his interview, he said, there's a few Georgians on a card in December. I think there's 3 cards in December, and he's pushing to get on that. But, he backs himself. He says, but I want to be the main event or co-main. No, I don't think he's going to get it. But again, Dana likes to hear that stuff when a fighter's backing himself in and he's coming to Dana and he's saying, get me on that card in a month's time. And this is where I should be. They like it. It was pretty impressive performance, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like you say, it might be a bit outlandish, but he's saying the right things there, and he's putting himself in a position. He's putting himself at the forefront of Dana's mind. If someone drops off that card, or they need a last-minute replacement, they know that he's game, and so he's done the right thing there. It's interesting. I think there was a runner, wasn't there, a while ago, where kickboxers were doing quite well in the UFC, and then it kind of petered off, and you don't see it very much anymore until recently, and you've seen Adesanya is kind of the first one that's come back of this new wave of kickboxers, and now Chikadze. Again, he's got that kind of pure kickboxing style, and he's shown that it can hold its own in the UFC. So, really interesting to see how he kicks on, literally. Main card, the first one that kind of I wanted to mention here was our girl Claudia. She let us down a bit there.
She broke my heart. My heart.
Claudia. She did the thing that we always advise people not to do, which is try and fight outside your game, something that you're not really capable of doing, especially for the people who are particularly good at a certain skill set. Stick to that, especially if you come up against someone who's a very good striker, which Claudia was coming up against with Xiaonan. Claudia should have grappled, and she tried to stand. And you roll the dice, you gamble, and you try and put out an impressive performance. You try and outstrike the striker, but if that doesn't come off, you end up looking a bit silly. And Claudia needed a win, unfortunately, and she hasn't got it. And it's going to put a bit of a halt on her career at the minute, because she's now out of that picture really of the top 5. But it does set up an interesting path, I think, towards Jiaonan fighting for Weili Zhang. I'm guessing at some point in the future. It becomes in the UFC have got the forefront of the mind, a card in China potentially once the world gets back on track. Am I in the right chat with that? Do you agree? Do you think that Claudia kind of missed a chance there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think round 1 it was a close fight, but towards the last couple of minutes, it kind of the light bulb moment happened with Gadelha. She grappled. I think she took her down and goes, close fight, close exchange. Me personally, you got the round. You used the grappling. You took her down. Yeah. Gadelha kind of stole that one. Great. Let's see it again. Round 2. It's obviously not working. That was the telltale sign. You had to go to your game. So what are you going to do? Second round. Stood up with her. Jiaonan won the second round. And I go, okay, she sits on the stool. No problem. She's experienced. We know a game. I know what I'm going to get from the third round. It's not going to be quite exciting, but Gadelha's going to do her game and get the win. No. She decided to do exactly what happened in the second round and thought, obviously, I'm going to now beat her in stand-up, even though I didn't in the second round, but now suddenly I am going to do that. And again, got pieced up, lost the stand-up battle, and lost the fight.
Yeah. Is it poor coaching? I would love to see what a corner team were telling her, whether they were, they were telling her to keep going, you're doing all right, or it was, no, Claudia, you need to grapple. Either way, it's a bit of a shame, and she's another one of the fighters that's quite, prominent on social media, and I think sometimes you need to take a step back, don't away from the glitz and glamour of the sport and her position, and get back on track and get back to what she's good at, because she's one that can definitely mix it in that top 5.
Yeah.
If she sticks to her skill set or expands her current one of the two. But I think trying to do something that it's not in your ballpark at the minute.
No,
it's not going to do any favors within the rankings and for your record. So unfortunately, that didn't go her way. Elsewhere on that card, I think it's just a shout out to the old boys, isn't it? Really, in the co-main and main event.
Yeah.
Co-main Arlovski. Him and Tanner Bosa, it wasn't an exciting fight by any means. But I suppose you get to the point in Arlovski's career, and he's a wily veteran. He's not going to do anything silly, is it? It's really for Tanner Bosa to come and take that win from him. And he wasn't able to do it. I think he was very fearful of Arlovski's power. Arlovski was smart in the way he fought the fight. Like I said, it wasn't super entertaining, but you've got to take your hat off to Arlovski there, and I think he played it perfectly well. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And I know he was worried about Arlovski's chin, and that that was very much the game plan of, it's that output and it's that look busy, do a couple of shots, move away from him. And for me, I was very disappointed with Bosa because, mate, it's a co-main spot against a legend in Arlovski who
there was his chance.
There's a chance to beat a legend on your resume, and not not to be disrespectful of the current Arlovski, but it's not the most difficult to beat, like in terms of that legend on your resume. It's kind of a bit like an Anderson Silva in a way, where you kind of go, and don't get me wrong, he's not as good as Silva, but Bosa for me just, it was feeling. I don't know what his game plan was at all, to be honest, because he just didn't do anything, and I don't think we'll see him in a co-main for quite some time. He's probably very much now opening the main card, or he might even be like a main prelim, or I don't think he'll be a co-main for quite some time.
Yeah, that was his chance to break into that top 10 of the UFC heavyweights, and I think if you want to mix it with the best, you've got to be able to come through veterans like Arlovski. And again, hats off to the old boys. They've just proven that you can still hang it with the youngsters coming through and the challengers and the contenders.
Yeah. To quote the great Ric Flair, to be the man, you got to beat the man.
I thought you were just going to say woo.
Woo.
Main event, same story, I suppose. Hats off to the old guy. It was, but it was a bit more back and forth. It was a lot more competitive.
Yeah.
No surprises, I suppose, with with Santos. We knew that his power is incredible, and he was able to put Teixeira down twice. I think once in the first round, once in the third round. Caught him, beautiful shots. But Teixeira, man, he has his ability to scramble his way out of trouble. Even when you think his lights must be, or his head must be spinning, he's seeing those birds fly around his head. He's somehow able to keep composed, grapple, get himself into a brilliant position, and then advance on that position as well. And I think his ground game was just far superior to Santos, who is a black belt as well in jiu-jitsu, but didn't, Teixeira didn't make him look like a black belt. I was really interested, and I think that what it does now is makes the question at the top of the light heavyweight division very, very interesting. What do you do with Teixeira? He's 41 years old. He's now knocking on the door of a title shot. Do you give it him? I guess that's the question. Yeah,
I would give it him. He's deserved it. I've been I was confident he'd beat Santos. I was kind of I said he would get the upset. He's got all the skills. He's very much like and he's a hard puncher, but he's very much like a Fabrizio Verdum in the heavyweight division. It's kind of he knows every skill. He's an Overeem. He's a wily veteran. He's got
You've seen everything.
He knows, and he's got every trick in the book. He can fight you anywhere, and he's dangerous from anywhere as well. So I would say give him the title shot. Now, the problem is Mr. John Jones, because Izzy and Jan, that there's rumored to be getting put together. Dana sees the John Jones fight for Izzy now. He wants Izzy to beat Jan and get the light heavyweight belt, for then John Jones to come up on Twitter and say, I think I'll take my belt back now. And suddenly, just before he's piled on all the Big Mac weight from to heavyweights, we're going to get Izzy and Jones mid next year, before John Jones goes after the bigger fish. Because I think Dana realizes the best time to do that fight is we got to cash in now before John Jones moves up and he's the heavyweight champion, and Izzy might not be able to get up there. We have to do it now. He sees dollars, and unfortunately, Teixeira may miss out because it's a business decision.
And I think the other side of it is as well, if he did go Teixeira's way and he did get the fight against Jan and he beat Jan, it doesn't lead on to anything for the UFC, because what do you do with that then?
Exactly.
Okay, so Teixeira's a champion. He'll fight someone else. He'll probably lose. He'll probably lose the first defense or the next one. He's not going to hold that belt for a long time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't lead on to anything for the UFC. Whereas doing the Izzy Jan fight, there's a plan there. There's progression, isn't there? And you're right. Although I don't know how they're going to work it out, but although Teixeira definitely deserves it and time is not on his side, I just don't know from a business perspective if they're going to make it work. One thing I did think was interesting, and credit to the Fight Disciples for pointing this out. We'll probably touch on it later, but UFC 256 is now in need of a main event. How good would it be if we could turn Jan around a bit quicker? I know he's kind of said he wasn't going to fight until March, but I don't know if Dana waves the money bags or dollar signs at him and just says, how about turning it around again in December? Fight Glover. That way you're doing right by Teixeira. He gets his title shot. Win or lose, doesn't matter. The winner effectively fights Izzy at some point next year. And then you continue on with John Jones. That's one way you could fit it in, but it's going to cost you some money, I think, because you're going to have to convince both of them to turn around pretty quick. I don't know what you think of that idea, but it's an option.
Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. I've not caught up on that yet. So
What next for Santos? So the division's really interesting. The light heavyweight division's really interesting. And what you can see from that fight, even though it didn't go his way, Santos still has incredible power. And there's quite a few power punchers now in that light heavyweight division. Anthony Rumble Johnson's coming back. Interesting fight there. You got that Petraka.
Yuri Petrashka, whatever his name is. Yeah.
That's the one. I think he's matched up with
Reyes.
Yeah. But there's a few big hitters there, and this division is all of a sudden full of killers. And we've mentioned it before, but I do think this belt's going to go on a bit of a conveyor belt around now, unless John Jones decides to come back down and take it. But I do think even if he does, he'll probably give it up and go to the heavyweight anyway. But it's a great division. It's gonna be very entertaining over the next kind of year to two, I think. Heaps of great matchups there.
And Prakashka being, because I think he's Polish as well. You've also got the Jan, similar to the girls, the Chinese main event. You kind of got the Polish. They've got a big Polish card. That could be a big Polish. You get Joanna on there.
Yeah, lots of great European fighters at the minute, and I think they'll want to capitalize on that as well. But I mean, it might not happen in Europe necessarily, but I think Fight Island for sure. That kind of leads on, I think, to the next thing I wanted to touch on, and the US election. And I'm not going to bore everyone about the US election, but I think what is interesting for us is the knock-on effect that Biden winning has on the UFC. As is very, very clear from the UFC, what's his name? Dana White is a big proponent, big supporter of Trump. And I think Trump had his back, through this period of the UFC being able to continue and operate through the pandemic. I think that Dana White was really banking on Trump getting back in order to almost make COVID go away and be able to get fans back in the stadiums, which is what Dana White's wanted for a long time. With Biden coming back in, I'm not sure that that's going to happen. I think Biden's going to take this a lot more seriously, which opens up Fight Island again. I think that's the only way you're going to get anywhere with fans in a stadium is in the bubble, in Abu Dhabi, some point next year. You start to get fans back in stadiums, which is not great for the American fighters, but for the European fighters, absolutely huge. And for, the Australians, the Middle East and the Russian fighters, you're going to see some amazing matchups there. The first of which we're hearing kind of rumors coming out today that the bout agreements are signed between McGregor and Poirier. That supposedly is going to take place on Fight Island, January 23rd. How excited are you for that one now that it's kind of finally over the line?
Gutted that I've lost my bet to Ryan. Yes, Ryan, I do owe you a meal. But no, who doesn't love Conor? You may hate the bloke, but the Conor spectacle, the Conor event is always special.
But needs always. Well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited for them to roll, to run it back again. And I'll say, who better to if there's fans there at Fight Island, who better than to state the reopening of Fight Island than Mystic Mac himself. So excited.
It would have been in Vegas, wouldn't it? Had fans back in the stadiums, but it looks like Fight Island's going to be treated to some Conor McGregor action. The other interesting one that, again, I'll quote the Fight Disciples on this one. The other interesting one that they put forward for the replacement for Amanda Nunes and Megan Anderson was potentially chucking Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson in there. Again, I know Chandler had kind of said he didn't want to do it because I know he even got his name thrown in against
RDA.
Felder, didn't he? We'll touch on that in a sec. But I think, again, you shake the money bags there. It kicks off that kind of conveyor belt going on at lightweight as well. The minute it gets that underway, I'd love to see Tony Ferguson take on Chandler. And there's an opening on that card for it now. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I agree. We're all keen to see where Chandler fits into the picture, how good his level is. We've already spoke about that division being absolutely stacked. We've talked about a potential tournament happening. There's a gap there to be filled. So give the fans what we want. We just want to see scraps, and we always want to see Ferguson and the new boy Chandler. Bring it on. Let's see him in action.
Yeah. Now, before we finish off and look at this weekend's card, the other one I wanted to touch on was obviously Darren Till dropping out of his fight against Hermansson. That was slated to take place at the start of December.
Yeah.
Till's pulled out. He cited his knee injuries. He's not quite right yet.
Yeah.
When I first heard it get announced, I definitely thought that it seems to me like he was pushing a little bit to get this fight in order to get to Izzy quicker.
Yeah.
But now that Adesanya's jumping up a weight, he's going to fight at light heavyweight. I think I think that Till's probably just put the brakes on it. I think he probably was going to come back and try and fight injured. I don't believe that from the knee injury and the surgery that he had that he would have been in tip-top condition for the Hermansson fight. But Till being Till was up for a scrap and was willing to take that risk, I think, against Hermansson. So in the long run, it's probably better for Till's career that Izzy has kind of put the brakes on that potential fight. For now, it'll allow him to heal up, and hopefully we'll see him at some point next year. It has worked out for Kevin Holland, and we've been banging his drum, haven't we, the last couple of weeks. He's fought 4 times throughout this pandemic in the COVID bubble over in Vegas, and I think he's now being rewarded with a big fight against Jack Hermansson.
Yeah.
How do you? What's the question I want to ask you here? Is it too soon for Kevin Holland? Is he at the right place in the rankings there, or is he being thrown in here, probably getting what he deserves, getting what he wants, but it might not go his way?
Yes and no. Like you say, he's got the fight because he's staying ready, he's fight fit, and he's proved a point. And for me, I don't think people can argue at that in a way, because unfortunately the precedent's been set, because Khamzat Chimaev is now fighting the top, the top 3 in Leon Edwards. So for me, I look at that and say, this is resulted because of that. So it's kind of, and like you're saying, it's probably a way to prove people to say, you string wins together and you fight on short notice and you fight every single month, every 4 weeks, and you will get the opportunity.
The mic and you say the right things.
Yeah. So I look at it and go, yeah, okay, maybe it is a bit of a jump, but at the same time, is there anybody else that would jump up and say, I want Hermansson? Hermansson is dangerous. So for me, you've earned it, mate. So do it. Go out and get the win.
Totally agree. Like you're very right. Hermansson's very dangerous. He made short work of Kelvin Gastelum, and it wasn't long ago he was very close to fighting for a title as well. He made short work of him.
Yeah.
I think one thing Kevin Holland, we know he's a great striker.
Yeah.
He's an excellent mixed martial artist.
Yeah.
It's a big step up. We know what Hermansson's ground game is impeccable. Yeah. But on the other side, Kevin Holland's been super active, and there's something to be said about being very, very active in the UFC. Yeah. He's just getting his time up in the octagon, getting his minutes up, getting his experience up. Yeah. Every chance in this fight, and no one deserves it more. And it brings up those questions. Fight of the year at the end of the year, even though he's not been in the big pay-per-view fights or main event
or title.
He could well have 5 wins within a year, which is nigh on unheard of in the UFC. So fair play to him. Fair play to him.
And it's no surprise to me that if Till was kind of still a little bit injured and the knees obviously causing him a few issues, for me, it's no surprise that he's decided to kind of pull the pin on that against Jack Hermansson, because a fully fit Gastelum, he quickly grabbed that leg.
Yeah.
And a sort of a shaky knee, or not a proper stable knee, well, some sort of knee bar, some heel hook, something. Yeah. If Hermansson sees a limb, he's taking it and will bend it round your head. You know what I mean?
I agree, and I think for Till it was worth the risk, because the carrot at the end of the line was Izzy Adesanya. Now that carrot's not there anymore, it's not worth the risk. I think it's a smart move for Till. Obviously, we want to see Till fight.
Yeah, of course.
I definitely don't question his courage or his willingness to fight. No. I don't think that's the case at all. It's just not worth the risk for him.
No.
So there's fair play.
Because Till needs to put his wins together as well. He wants Izzy, and he talks. And we want him to succeed. But now it's time. You've got to get the wins together. Similar to Whittaker, he's back on that winning train. He's back on that moving toward the title. So we all want to see you get there, Darren. Izzy wants you to be in there with him. So you've got to, pull the win. You've got to put those wins together.
Do the right things, and hopefully his coach is in his ear, and he's been advised well. So
absolutely,
hopefully we'll see him start next year.
Yeah.
To finish us off, this weekend's card, not great, and it nearly went from kind of bad to very bad. The main event, RDA Rafael dos Anjos was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev. This fight's been, I think it was the 3rd time this has been scheduled, or the 2nd time. It's Makhachev dropped out previously.
Yeah, and I think RDA had COVID as well, I think.
Yeah, RDA had COVID. 3rd time, I believe, that this is come on, and now Makhachev's pulled the plug at the last minute. I think there's, from what I read, there was mumps or some kind of illness going around in his camp, with the likes of Khabib and Usman Nurmagomedov.
Yeah.
So Yeah, so that fell off, and you're suddenly looking at the card thinking, oh my god, like this is not. I know it's not a pay-per-view card or anything like that, but it's still a pretty weak card in terms of for your average fan. There's not a lot of names on there that you would know at all. Even I looked at it yesterday, and you like to think that you know a little bit about the fighters, and I was struggling to find names that I knew and recognized.
Yeah.
So the UFC must have been pretty worried about it. They were throwing names around initially. I think Michael Chandler was thrown in there. He quickly shut that down and was like, "Nah, I've just done a weight cut for the Khabib Gaethje fight. I've just traveled. I've come off a fight camp for that. I can't do it in 5 days, whatever it was." Smart move. I don't know. I think people were expecting a lot more of him, because he has jumped through a few hoops and he's trying to prove himself. But I think it's a lot to ask for someone that. Yeah. However, Mr. Paul Felder, the Irish Dragon, who I don't even think had any intention of fighting anytime soon, has taken the fight. How impressed were you with Paul Felder?
Right. It just shows why the UFC fans love him. And, I mean, for me, in my opinion, I know me and Ryan had a back and forth on social media yesterday. He was criticising me, saying that Paul Felder won't be a future Hall of Famer, but I think he will.
I would have thought so.
I think he's hands down. And like you say, Paul Felder, he wasn't training for fights. He was training for triathlons, we believe. And to be honest, he doesn't need to fight because he's got a job for life on the UFC commentary table. But Paul Felder, we saw him in Fight Island go from the commentary table to the corner of the octagon. And now in 5 days, he's gone from the commentary table to actually in the octagon. So I was so impressed. But you know what? It's a testament to him as a man. And you're not surprised by it because that's what Paul Felder brings. So, I don't know whether I do want to see Makhachev, but I'm kind of more excited to see Felder on 5 days' notice now. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm suddenly like really keen on this card now. Like, with the Makhachev fight, you're like, no, okay, it's good. Yeah. But now that it's just more of a story to it now, and for me, a new element. I love the story. I love the narrative of this coming in. Like you say, before what would have been maybe Monday, Tuesday, he was training for triathlon. He was on his bike. And now all of a sudden, he must have seen that drop off and thought, I'll do it, put his hand up. It's a testament to the man. He's a competitor. He likes a challenge. He likes getting paid. Why would he not want to do it? He's ready. I think the weight thing in the past would have been an issue. He's fought at 170 before and sometimes, struggled to make 155. Yeah. But I'm guessing coming off triathlon training, he's probably a bit lighter. Mm-hmm. He might not be as sharp going in. He's not coming off a training camp. But he's an experienced guy and he's been in there, a million times. So he's just going to get in there and enjoy himself. And, he'll pose some questions for RDA as well. Yeah. I think I'm expecting now a stand-up fight, what you're going to get with Paul Felder for sure. He's going to try and keep this on its feet. Yeah. He's got that, the Muay Thai background. He likes a stand-up battle. Generally, when Paul Felder fights, either one or both of the competitors going to end up in hospital. So I'm expecting a war. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see, Felder's his last couple of fights have all gone to decision. Some have gone his way, some have not. He's coming off a defeat to Hooker, but he did get a decision win over Barbosa. So I'm expecting this to go the distance. Something about the last minute replacement, the mentality, the mindset makes me feel that Felder might get it.
All right.
Am I just following this fairy tale story here?
No.
Yeah.
I'm going to go RDA on this one. Only because, he needs a win. I think he's won one of his last 5. I think submission win to Kevin Lee. All the other 4 have been absolute killers, by the way, who he's fought, like Kobe, Usman, Leon Edwards, Michael Chiesa. So they're all, top talent.
Everyone.
But RDA has been talking about, obviously, he's not even in the he's not in the rankings. He's still in the welterweight rankings, and he was 12th in the rankings, and then he was supposed to be fighting the 12th in the lightweight division. Suddenly that he scrapped, and now he gets Well done, mate. But now you get number 7 in the lightweight rankings. So I'm going to say RDA's got a point to prove, because similar to Felder, he's had a lot of decisions recently.
Yeah.
And I think he's got a point to prove. I think it may go the distance or close to the distance, depending on depending on how kind of fit Felder is and how that kind of short notice happens. But RDA wants a point to prove. I think he's been talking this week about a new chapter, the lightweight division. He wants something new, a new challenge. And the fact that Khabib may be retired, he sees that as a potential. He wants to mix it with the big boys. He can kind of see a vacant title, and he sees this as kind of his last chance in a way, his last time to really sort of get up there and become a champion, kind of, once again and be in the mix.
Again, yeah, that's the key thing.
Yeah.
He's been the 155 champ, hasn't he? And
yeah.
To forget that, because a lot of people see, I myself see him as a welterweight now, and he has come between the divisions, and he's just not found his home recently. And I think he's now deciding it's 155, and he's going to have one last crack. And I guess, it's interesting because the winner of this fight almost puts himself into this not real lightweight tournament that we keep talking about. I thought Makhachev was going to be, a shoe-in for that. Everyone's very high on him. But dropping out of 2-3 fights and the timing just might go against him here, and he might get left behind a little bit.
Certainly. And it's not so much dropping out of 2 or 3 fights. It's kind of, dropping out of 2 or 3 main events, and it's kind of the cards here for you type thing. We put a card on because of you, in a sense. And
if he wasn't he'd be a goner, I think.
Yeah.
But he'll stick around, but I do think timing might go against him here in terms of this lightweight division's about to get very interesting. And the fact that he's missed out here in this fight puts him, behind the pack.
I agree.
That could be it for him.
And like you were saying with Makhachev and the hype, and I'll say we're excited. We're excited to see him. There's a lot of people high on Makhachev, and the thing is with Makhachev, this is his time now. He's trained and been in the camp of killers and champions. Cormier is finished. Velasquez is finished. Khabib looks like he's retired. Luke Rockhold, I don't know what Luke Rockhold's doing. We'll just say retired. He should be retired. But all have been champions, and this is his time now. He is the new AKA prospect, and Cormier talks, I don't call him Islam anymore. He is champ. I call him champ. He's the next one for AKA. And as I say, unfortunately, you may get left behind. You should be the kind of the flag bearer for this gym now. So it's going to be interesting to see whether because Charles Olivier is another one that they're kind of overlooking at the moment, and they can't really find a fight for him. So suddenly it's kind of like, well, is it going to be you two against each other now in the you didn't make the
so many
you didn't make the lightweight tournament fight, so he's got some there's some thinking to be doing in that division, and unfortunately Islam, like you say, maybe left behind.
Before we wrap up, the last thing I want to know from you is who's your Greg backing in the Masters?
That is the question. That is the question. So for those of you that don't know, my brother tunes into 4 rounds of golf every year, usually just the majors, which, I do as well. I don't follow a lot of it. And sure enough, the last 3 majors, my brother has backed the winners of each tournament. So I know he'll be on the favourite, Bryson DeChambeau. I don't know his other golfers, but I will be dropping a call into him straight after this, and I will text you through who he's backed. Don't back who I'm going for, although I did get my money back on the last one. I've backed a few golfers. A guy, most notable, a guy called Tiger Woods. I always get suckered into Tiger Woods at the Masters. You may have heard of him.
No.
Nah, so he's the defending champion. So he won the Masters last year, which is one of the best sporting stories in terms of a comeback ever, in terms of where he was and where he's been. There's something about Tiger Woods at the Masters. He's played some up and down golf, but I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's Augusta, it's Woods, and Augusta this year is being played in November, usually on my birthday weekend in April. So yeah, I'm glad that they've been able to rearrange it. And unfortunately, I'm back in the office now, because that was going to be my plan for Thursday and Friday. I was going to have that on in the background. So
you want the lockdown back just for this kind of next 2 weeks? So you can
so it's back to normality. So I can't have it on in the background. So I'll have to just follow updates and find replays. But can't wait for the golf. Love the Masters. There's something about Augusta that's magical. So that's what I'll be doing this weekend. What about yourself? Is it UFC?
I'm moving house, so there's a bit of UFC going on. But aside from that, I'm mainly moving boxes around. That's my weekend.
Exactly. And I know you did it on purpose, because it's an international break and you didn't want to miss a Liverpool game. So you've obviously uprooted for the international break. Fair play.
Yeah, I've got no interest for that in these internationals. So
And for all those fans, to wrap up, that love the Nations League and love glorified friendlies and what that brings in a pandemic where there's travel anywhere. England, just for your knowledge, play Ireland. I believe they play Belgium, and they was scheduled to play Tesco, but they couldn't play. So luckily, Iceland have stepped in. So they play Iceland in their third fixture. So anyone that cares, and anybody that will be watching them, I won't be watching them. Then yeah.
Someone text in, tell us about
yeah, tell us who scored.
Right, I need your help with this bit, because I balls this up last week. Can you officially point to the right corner? Because I don't know which corner I'm pointing at.
So
thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. As always, if you like what's going on, hit the subscribe button, which is at the back with our logo.
Is it that corner?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'll just do this.
Yeah.
Maybe this. And maybe this.
Somewhere.
I don't know.
Hit like. Tell your mates about it. Thanks very much for listening. Cheers, Grant. All the best.
Cheers, mate. Take care. See you soon.